Here's the change control trap that fails PMP candidates. They know you need approval before implementing changes, but on exam day, the scenario makes skipping change control feel reasonable. The sponsor agrees verbally, the change is small, the deadline is tight, none of that matters. In this video, I'll break down Task 10 from Domain 2. Manage project changes. 4 enablers, the complete change control process step by step, the 3 types of changes the exam tests, and a practice question built around the exact trap that catches most candidates. Let's get into it. Task 10 sits in Domain 2, 50% of the exam. 4 enablers. 1. Anticipate and embrace the need for change. 2. Determine strategy to handle change. 3. Execute change management strategy according to methodology. 4. Determine a change response to move the project forward. 4 enablers covering the full change lifecycle, from anticipating change through responding to it. The exam tests all 4, but particularly enabler 3. Executing the strategy correctly, which means following the change control process every single time without exception. The change control trap has one root cause: verbal approval treated as authorization to implement. It is not, and the exam tests this directly. A sponsor saying yes does not authorize implementation. A stakeholder requesting a change urgently does not bypass the process. An executive insisting the change is critical does not skip change control. Authorization comes from one place only: the formal process, change request logged, full impact assessed, change control board approval received in writing. Until that process is complete, no implementation happens. When you see a scenario where a change seems reasonable, the sponsor agrees, and the pressure to act is high, that is the setup for the trap. The correct answer follows the process first. Every question in Task 10 tests this principle. The first enabler is anticipate and embrace the need for change. PMI treats change as an expected reality to be managed proactively, not a problem to be avoided. In predictive projects, changes are inevitable despite careful planning. Market conditions shift, stakeholder needs evolve, technical constraints emerge. The PM, who establishes a robust change management process before changes arrive, is far better positioned than one who treats every change as an emergency. In Agile, change is built into the methodology through the backlog. The exam tests whether you embrace change as information, something to respond to thoughtfully, rather than resisting it as unwanted disruption. Resisting all change is not the PMI answer. The second enabler is determine strategy to handle change. Different project contexts require different change management approaches, and the exam tests whether you match the strategy to methodology. In predictive projects, the change management plan documents who can request changes, how impact is assessed, CCB composition, approval thresholds, and communication protocols. This plan is established during planning before execution begins. In Agile, the strategy is the backlog process. New items are prioritized by the product owner at sprint boundaries. In hybrid projects, the strategy specifies which components use predictive change control and which use Agile backlog management. Always match the strategy to the methodology described in the scenario. 6 steps, and the exam tests the sequence and what happens when any step is skipped. Step 1, change is identified. Step 2, a formal change request is logged in writing. Verbal identification is not sufficient. Step 3, impact is assessed across scope, schedule, cost, risk, quality, and resources. Step 4, the CCB reviews the request and the impact assessment. Step 5, The CCB approves or rejects. Both outcomes are documented in the change log. Step 6. Approved changes are implemented and all affected plans are updated. On the exam, the correct answer always reflects this sequence. Any option that skips logging, skips impact assessment, or skips CCB approval before implementation is the change control trap. The exam tests 3 specific types of change requests. Confusing them costs points. Corrective action, a change to bring the project back in line with the baseline after a deviation. Project is behind schedule. Corrective action recovers it. Responds to a past deviation. Preventive action, a change to reduce the probability of a future negative event. A risk identified, preventive action reduces its likelihood now, addresses a future risk. Defect repair, a change to fix a deliverable that does not meet requirements. Failed QC inspection, defect repair brings it back into conformance. All 3 are change requests. All 3 go through the change control process. The third enabler is execute the change management strategy according to the methodology. This is where the trap lives. Execution means following the process consistently without exceptions for urgency, relationship, apparent obviousness, or sponsor instruction. The PM's role in execution: ensure every change request is logged immediately when identified. Impact assessments are completed thoroughly before CCB review. The CCB has all information needed for an informed decision, and approved changes are communicated to all affected stakeholders before implementation begins. On the exam, PM implements after verbal sponsor approval, process violation. PM logs the request and waits for CCB approval despite time pressure. Correct PMI behavior. The trap is always the shortcut that feels reasonable. The CCB is the formal governance body responsible for reviewing and approving or rejecting change requests. Understanding the CCB is essential for answering change control questions. CCB composition varies. It typically includes the PM, sponsor, key stakeholders, and subject matter experts relevant to the change. The PM chairs the CCB but does not have sole approval authority. That authority is shared across the board. Approval thresholds are documented in the change management plan. Changes below a defined cost or schedule threshold may be approved by the PM alone. Changes above the threshold require full CCB approval. On the exam, large or significant change, full CCB required. Minor change, check the threshold. The fourth enabler is determine a change response to move the project forward. After the CCB decides, approved or rejected, the PM responds appropriately. For approved changes, update all affected baselines and subsidiary plans, communicate the change to all impacted stakeholders before work begins, assign implementation responsibility, and monitor execution. An approved change that is not communicated creates an execution gap. For rejected changes, document the rejection in the change log, communicate to the requester, and ensure the team does not implement despite stakeholder disappointment. If the stakeholder disagrees, the correct path is formal reconsideration through the process. In Agile, change management works through the product backlog, not a change control board. This is a critical distinction the exam tests directly. New requirements, evolving customer needs, and sprint review feedback become backlog items. The product owner prioritizes and manages the backlog, deciding which changes enter the next sprint based on business value and team capacity. Changes mid-sprint are discouraged. The team commits to the sprint plan, and the product owner protects them from disruption. New changes wait for the next sprint boundary. Exam rule: Predictive change equals change control board. Agile change equals product backlog and product owner. 3 traps on task 10 questions. Trap 1, verbal approval is authorization. It is not. Sponsor says yes verbally, log the request, complete the process, implement only after formal CCB approval, every time. Trap 2, urgency justifies skipping steps. Tight deadlines do not bypass change control. The process may be expedited in genuine emergencies, but expedited means completed faster, not skipped entirely. Trap 3, small changes do not need change control. Size does not determine whether change control applies. Any change to a baseline element goes through the process regardless of magnitude. Let's test your change control discipline. The project is 1 week from a major milestone delivery. The sponsor calls the project manager and verbally instructs them to add a new requirement that will take 3 days to implement. The sponsor says the change is critical and approval is guaranteed. What should the project manager do? Option A, implement the change immediately since the sponsor has instructed it and approval is guaranteed. Option B, log the change request, assess the full impact on the milestone and project baselines, and submit to the change control board for formal approval before implementing. Option C, tell the sponsor the change cannot be made this close to the milestone. Option D, ask the team to work overtime to implement the change without affecting the milestone date. The correct answer is B. This is the change control trap at its most direct. Verbal instruction plus guaranteed approval is still not formal authorization. That is the trap. The process applies. Log the change request, assess the full impact on the milestone and all affected baselines. Submit to the CCB for formal approval. If the sponsor is correct that approval is guaranteed, the process confirms it quickly. If there are impacts the sponsor has not considered, the process surfaces them. Why not A? Verbal instruction is not authorization. Implementing here is the change control trap exactly. Why not C? Scope can be changed at any point through change control. Absolute language, wrong. Why not D? Implementing without authorization regardless of overtime is a process violation. B is the only answer that follows the change control process correctly. That is the change control trap and exactly how to avoid it on the PMP exam. Log it, assess it, get formal CCB approval, then implement every time. Subscribe for more PMP exam prep. Next up, the procurement trap, Domain 2, Task 11 explain. See you in the next video.